Today's episode is sponsored by Ellii, Ellii.
Ellii is one of the world's leading content libraries for English language teachers, with thousands of ready-made lessons and flashcards and hundreds of videos that you can use to complement your own curriculum or use as your main source of materials.
Ellii is run by a team of former English teachers, dedicated to creating content that engages your language learners.
If you're an independent teacher or paying for your materials out of pocket, we invite you to use our podcast's exclusive discount code Think-Aloud to save 15% off your first membership term.
And if you're an administrator looking to buy for your whole program, just reach out to the fine folks at Ellii to inquire about a 2-month free trial to test it out for your organization. And don't forget to mention who sent you, your friends at the Teacher Think Aloud podcast.
Head to ellii.com today. That's ELLII.com.
All right, we are rolling in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, listeners, to the Teacher Think Aloud podcast 2026 Friends of the Podcast. In this year's episode, we're coming back to basics.
Yes, this episode is a bit of a throwback, isn't it? We're coming back to the very basics. That is the foundation of what we do here, reflection.
Exactly. We had a great time last fall collaborating on episodes with the DSOL Pod team, focusing heavily on reflective practice. It felt like the perfect time to circle back.
Yeah, and one of the simplest, most effective ways that we always recommend for teachers to capture those fleeting moments of reflection is just using a voice memo. It's really easy to do on your phone.
So we took that idea and ran with it. For this episode, we wanted to create a collective reflective experience. We invited listeners to send us their own brief voice memos reflecting on their practice.
So as you listen to each contributor, we encourage you to reflect on how their goals relate to your classroom. See what resonates with you.
Maybe their area for improvement is something you've neglected lately, or an idea you want to bring your attention back to. It's a chance to reflect right alongside us.
Yes, let's jump right in with our first friend of the podcast.
Hello, my name is Michelle Land. I'm an ESL teacher at Randolph High School in New Jersey. I'm also the president of NJ TESOL and JBE, which are the state affiliations for TESOL International, as well as NABE. One thing that I would like to work on is individualizing lessons for my SLIFE students. The gaps that they have in their education are unique, and they are not always consistent. And so I feel that the approach to address those gaps should also be unique. In order to address this, I need to fully understand what the students are capable of doing, and therefore that will be my first steps in doing this. Just like a map or a GPS, when you want to go somewhere, you first need to know where you are in order to know how you're going to get there.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that we started off with Michelle here because needs assessment, truly getting to know our students and their needs, that's one of the pillars of teaching. And it isn't always so simple, right? It takes a lot of practice to really hone our needs assessment skills and then figure out an individualized learning plan for each student.
In Michelle's high school setting, too, in New Jersey, she probably gets a wide variety of different students with different home languages and different levels of experience with English and with literacy in general, in some cases. Obviously, I'm just making assumptions off of what I know about ESL and SLIFE in K through 12 in the United States, but I can see how staying attuned to our students' individual strengths and needs would come into play.
Absolutely. Our next contributor also mentioned needs assessments for individualized learning, but in a very different context.
Hi, this is Lauren Johnson, she, her, and I teach online almost exclusively. I'm a virtual educator with the English language programs with the Department of State, teaching groups of learners from A1, A2 to more advanced intermediate learners. I also teach one-on-one to business professionals who are part of a language development program within their companies. One thing I really want to work on is the question of needs assessments. Assessments that will help me design lessons that match their specific, most immediate goals, at the same time engage them in things that maybe they're not so sure they needed to learn or wanted to learn. Sometimes people want to quote unquote sound more natural, or they'll need specific functional language for a specific meeting or presentation. It's very different in EFL contexts where learners are working in multinational settings and English is the lingua franca than it is for people who moved to an English-speaking country and they have to survive with others who are L1.
Great points about the difference between ESL and EFL contexts. I can see how people's priorities would shift when English is the dominant language in a country versus when English is the lingua franca for communicating among business professionals.
Yeah, it makes needs assessment really important. So I'll be curious to hear how Lauren manages to fine-tune her needs assessment process with her clients. I remember when I tutored business executives at Ferrero's US branch in New York City, and
Wait. Ferrero, like Ferrero Rocher chocolates?
yes, Ferrero Rocher, Nutella, and Kinder, and even Tic Tacs, or as
Oh.
I would say as a proud Italian, Nutella, Kinder, and Tic Tac.
Sounds much better. I like it that
Yes.
way.
But
Nice.
like, let me tell you though, going to their offices always left me with some sweet treats to take home.
Lovely.
Yes. But anyway, we got
Mm,
sidetracked.
yeah.
I remember I was kind of at a loss for a needs assessment one-on-one like
Mm,
that. Most of these executives were already very confident English speakers, so I
mhm,
needed a way to really parse through what they said they wanted and
mhm.
determine what they actually wanted and needed.
That's a challenge. That really resonates with me.
Hmm.
I have also had a few one-on-one business English students in New York City who were really interested in pronunciation and sounding quote unquote native like.
Hmm.
And I think that those situations can be especially tricky because the goal often isn't about intelligibility or comprehensibility for them, right? But producing a prestige version of English. And I think that that's where it shifts for me from form to function and even beyond language to helping people express who they are in the target language. Tough
Yes,
stuff.
yes, exactly. And when you
Mm.
think about it, so much business communication today is happening between multilingual speakers anyway. So
Hmm.
really, it's just more practical, right?
Yeah, yeah. Let's hear from another contributor who also works in business English.
Hey everyone, I'm Andrea. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm thrilled to be participating in this podcast. I've spent the last 20 years as a passionate global educator, ESL and EFL teacher, teaching English everywhere. The US, Andorra, China, Japan, Sudan, and Germany, to right here in Argentina. Right now, I'm helping professionals with business English and training the next generation of translators and English teachers. My mission is simple: create a supportive learning space that champions cross-cultural understanding. As we integrate technology like AI, my focus is on empowering learners to use these tools wisely, developing the critical thinking skills they need to make smart choices, not only in their learning processes, but also in life. I deeply believe in lifelong learning, and that's why I'm getting myself immersed in the huge universe of technology. At the same time, I'm also channeling all this experience into my new business, which pairs language acquisition with the soft skills essential for our globalized world.
I love Andrea's commitment to lifelong learning.
Indeed. And AI really is an area where we all need to continually upskill.
Yeah.
Every few months, it feels like a totally new landscape.
Sure does. Remember our last Friends of the Podcast episode in early 2024 on AI and
Yeah.
ELT, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the great ideas that teachers shared on that episode are still really inspiring, But the technology has really evolved since then. That episode didn't even mention custom GPTs, which are taking over the world now.
Right. We were still in that phase where teachers were skeptical of AI and worried about plagiarism and such. And we still are, but we're slowly coming to understand the technology and get our bearings about what we need to do to ensure the ethical use of AI, how to use all of the different tools at our disposal, how to get students to use the tools in a way that supports learning and not just for cheating, and so much more, right?
Right. Well, and speaking of learning with AI, another contributor to this episode is working closely on this topic.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Hanson, she, her. I teach in the U.S. at the University of Minnesota in our intensive English program for international students. That means I teach classes on speaking and listening, or reading and writing, or grammar, and our levels range from high beginner to advanced. One thing I want to work on in my teaching is trying more AI tools that my students can use to help their English practice and learning. This is because our English program is going to offer a completely new course in the spring, English Language Learning with Generative AI, and I'm going to be teaching it. One step I'm taking to begin planning this course is going through all of the websites and articles and AI tools that I've been bookmarking for the past couple of years, so I can start to see which ones might be useful as I build this class. It's a little overwhelming, but I think it will also be a fun topic to work with.
So cool that Stephanie is developing an actual language learning with AI course.
Wow.
I'd love to pick her brain on the contents. Maybe we'll have to have her on the show.
Yeah, maybe. Look out for that email, Stephanie. Anyway, it's great to hear so many teachers out there who are focusing on integrating Gen AI into their teaching. But the impetus for this episode for us, I think, is really to acknowledge all of the day-to-day kinds of shifts that teachers are reflecting in their practice, the human side of teaching. Let's hear from our next friend of the pod.
Hi, my name is Tabitha Kidwell, she, her, hers, and I teach MAT-SOL methods and linguistics courses at American University in Washington, D.C. Next year, I want to work on supporting students' participation in full class discussions. I know that speaking in front of the full class can be intimidating, so I do a lot of small group discussions and reflective writing to help students prepare to speak. But I've realized that some students still don't participate in that full class discussion. So I think I'm missing some opportunities to help them develop that really important skill. So next semester, I'm going to be experimenting with techniques to increase students' participation in the full group, and I'm going to journal to help me track the results.
It's great to hear that someone as accomplished as Tabitha is thinking about the quote unquote basics, right? In her case, student participation. So, in case you didn't hear our last episode of 2025, listeners, Tabitha is a teacher trainer and leader in the TESOL field. So, the fact that she's thinking about student participation goes to show that these foundational aspects of teaching are always there. We're always thinking about how to hold space for our students.
Absolutely. And Tabitha also said that she'll be journaling about her progress, which is just a fantastic tool for reflective practice.
Sure is.
Yeah.
For more ideas on how to add some reflection into your routine, we recommend listening to the episode we did with our friends at the DSOL podcast, episodes 73 and 74, Foundations of Reflective Practice.
But we digress. Let's hear
Yes.
from a few more friends of the podcast. Our next contributor also focused on students' experience in her class.
Hi, this is María Parra. I am an English teacher from Loja in Ecuador. Currently, I work with students of 4th grade and students of 2nd year of bachillerato. One thing that I would like to work with my students is the positive leadership in the classroom. I would like this project because I feel that most of the time the students are interested in the media, in other things regarding the internet than in their studies. The first step that I am following for this project is that I am using positive words, positive reinforcement to encourage and motivate my students in the class so they feel appreciated.
I love that. Thank you so much for contributing your reflection, Luz Maria. Student motivation is just so central to the work we do as educators, and especially in a K through 12 setting, I think I love that Luz is trying to create a positive learning space where students are engaged and ready to learn.
Now, there are so many ways to motivate students, and I think creating a welcoming space,
Mm.
building rapport with the teacher and among the learners themselves, that's the first step in my view, but there's so much
Mm-hmm.
more.
Right. Things like goal setting, gamification, and helping learners see how what they're learning connects to their lives, to name
Mhm.
a few. But first and foremost, getting on the learner's level and really understanding them. One of our more popular episodes, Building Rapport on Day One, gives a good overview of this.
Great episode. Give it a
Yes.
listen if you haven't already. And maybe some of our listeners have suggestions for Luz. Leave a
Mhm.
comment if you have tips for motivating young learners.
Now, Lewis wasn't the only contributor focused on creating a safe learning space for learners. Our longtime friend of the podcast, Sherry MacKay, also had some goals to share with us.
Hi, my name is Sherry MacKay. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm with Transformational Learning Communities, where I do teacher training and I'm still in the classroom teaching adults English as a second language. I've been really focused on creating more intentional trauma-informed spaces. I'm already doing this work, and I know that the more I do this work for myself and support teachers in doing the same, our students and their families benefit from it. Next year, I will focus on slowing down with my students and with the teachers so we get to really reflect and provide opportunities where we feel safe enough to learn and grow. This includes more somatic practices, breath work, and of course, having fun in the class.
So great to hear from Sherry.
Yeah.
I also would love to learn more about somatic practices and breath work, something I'm not
Hmm.
familiar with so much.
Yeah. Well, Anna, the good news is you can take one of the workshops Sherry offers through her business, Transformational Learning Communities, to learn all about it. Um, or if you're not ready to invest in a full workshop, give our episode with her a listen.
That's episode 34 on trauma sensitive teaching.
Mhm. One of our other contributors mentioned mindfulness as a goal, so she may like our episode with Sherry. Let's hear from Lorena.
Hi, my name is Lorena Ojeda. I'm originally from Argentina. I live in San Salvador de Jujuy, which is in the northwestern part of the country. I currently teach at the UCSE, which is a Catholic University of Santiago del Estero. I teach in the second year of the architecture career. I'm an adjunct professor, and we are learning English with my students so that they can use it for their projects in architecture. We have been using integrated performance assessment approach. One of the challenges or the things that I would like to work better is to plan more activities that are integrated tasks that my students can use meaningfully. We started also incorporating mindfulness, and I would like to make it more strategic and have like a playbook of how we can implement this systematically. The same for universal design for learning. I would like to incorporate this approach in my lesson design. So the steps that I am taking for next year is to get these model perspectives, provide my students with different ways in which they can access the information, either by audio, video, and other ways. So that's the way I'm planning to use this approach into my teaching practice for next year. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Amazing. Lorena is very ambitious.
Yes.
But first of all, English for architecture sounds fascinating. I
Mhm.
always love teaching English for specific purposes because you really get to learn about a lot about a different discipline, right?
Yeah, me too. I
Mm.
just love how distinct each of the areas she mentioned are:
Hmm.
integrated performance assessment, mindfulness, and UDL. Wow.
Hmm. Yeah. And her last point about universal design for learning, I think, answers the question of how to create a positive learning environment, too.
Hmm.
The core of the UDL framework is offering multiple modes of learning, like offering the option of a video to watch or a text to read, or giving students the choice of a presentation versus an essay, so that they have multiple points of entry into the material. It started as a way to ensure accessibility, but it's become a more central framework for teaching.
Yeah, it's a great way for all students to feel more engaged and supported in their learning.
Mm-hmm.
And Lorena also mentioned integrated performance assessment, right? Which, I hadn't
Mm-hmm.
thought about for a very long time. But
Mm-hmm.
for those who may not be familiar with the term, IPA is a type of classroom-based assessment developed by ACTFul that evaluates three modes of communication: interpretive, presentational, and interpersonal, I believe. I think I would sum it up as really just combining different kinds of authentic real world tasks like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, read about a music class in your community, call the music school to ask questions, and write a text to your friend about why you're excited about the class. There are lots of
Mm.
examples.
Yeah, fantastic. Adding more integrated tasks to our lessons takes practice and
Mhm.
creativity. So I'll be interested to see what Lorena does to add more multimodality to her classes. Another contributor is looking forward to trying out creative ideas in his lesson planning.
Hi, my name's Lewis. I'm a multilingual interventionist in DC. I work in a public school that's elementary and middle school. I have about 35 kids on my caseload from about first grade through eighth grade. And I've been working a lot on lesson planning. I want to get way better at it. I'm actually taking a master's right now that's going to end in December. And there's a bit of an irony to taking a master's, right? You learn all kinds of great stuff in how to teach grammar, how to teach reading, writing, but you also don't have the time to really implement all of it very well. So a lot of my lessons have been a little bit prescripted, a little bit more by the book than it would be otherwise. Now that the master's is ending in December, I'm excited to take the time to really use what I've learned in practice, right? A lot of times you have all that experience and all that knowledge, but you're so swamped with work and with classes that I'm not able to really support my students the way they should. So over the next, few months after the master's ends, it's just going to be a lot of taking the time that I was using to read and write assignments to focus in on what my students needs and really planning good and effective lessons for them. Thank you.
Yeah, speaking of back to basics, no matter how you cut it, teaching always involves a lot of lesson planning. And I hope
Mm-hmm.
I hope this new year will bring lots of new ideas.
Yeah. And congrats on wrapping up your master's, Lewis. That's super exciting. The ultimate professional development experience. Our final friend of the pod today is also working on a master's program.
Hi, my name is Joel Tillman. My pronouns are he, him. Currently, I'm teaching at Teachers College Columbia University in multiple contexts. So I work with the Community Language Program, the CLP, working with adult ESL learners. But I also work as a writing fellow with the Student Success Department, working with graduate students one-on-one as they work on different writing skills. So one thing I'd like to work on in my teaching is to improve the resources that I have available for my students. I find a lot of good online websites and resources, some of which I might want to print out, such as cheat sheets for different APA style mechanics. And I think to do this, I'd like to have even a library in my teaching portfolio of all the useful resources that I've encountered. This way I can easily share with my students.
Yes. Building up a library of resources at our fingertips is something that takes time as a teacher, right? The longer you're in the field, the easier it is to just conjure up a resource that fits students' exact needs.
Yes, yes. It's interesting that Joel is teaching in two very different capacities too. One-on-one graduate writing consulting and teaching adult ESL learners. Every guest on this episode has brought such a unique perspective, from K through 12 to business English to English for architecture to adult
Yeah.
ESL programs. I mean, it's just incredible how broad of a field English language teaching is.
Ugh, that's why I love it.
Me too.
And I mean, also the scope of the areas for development each of these guests brought up, right? From foundational teaching concerns like lesson planning and creating a warming environment to larger frameworks for teaching and trends like generative AI. The deeper you go, the more you realize there is to learn.
Mm-hmm. Thank you to all of our wonderful friends of the podcast who shared their voices and reflections on this episode. We're so grateful for you, and we hope all of you are able to achieve your teaching goals this year and experience the joy of teaching.
And to those of you listening, what are your teaching goals for 2026? Leave a comment on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We want to hear from you.
And don't forget to subscribe. Happy New Year, everyone.
And as always, happy teaching
and happy reflecting.